right. Well, hello. Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are. My name is Betsy Corcoran, and I am co-founder of EdSurge and an executive director at ISTE, which is the International Society for Technology and Education. EdSurge is a news and information resource. We do a lot to try to help people understand how to use technology to support learning and learning of all sorts, learning at home, learning in the classroom, across K-12 and higher ed. And we do a number of different activities, including webinars such as this. At the end of last year, EdSurge joined with ISTE, which is a nonprofit organization that serves hundreds of thousands of educators across the globe, all of whom are trying to figure this out as well. There's never been a better time to talk about using technology effectively to support learning than right now, in the middle of the world pandemic sparked by COVID. For today's webinar, we've lined up a really amazing group of people to really talk about what the impact of COVID is on education. We're going to be focusing specifically on what our colleagues in China have been learning, as they have been a month and a half ahead of where the United States and Western Europe has been. Our guests are going to share what they've learned by transitioning to remote learning so quickly, and some of the options for learning that they're now offering their students. And they'll share perspectives both from K-12 all the way up through higher ed and international schools. We want to have a special thanks to Klassen for supporting our coverage of COVID with this webinar. Yeah, say that 3 times fast. You can see that we're using actually the Chinese online platform, Klassen, to give you a sense of what some students in China are beginning to experience and how they've continued their learning throughout this pandemic. If you're watching this, you're viewing a live stream of the conversation. And if you want to participate, which we really hope you will, you can hop into the live chat by downloading Klassen and then creating an account at klassen.com. One last quick note before we get started. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be made available to you and others via email after this event. If you've signed up for the webinar, we'll also make sure that you get some updates and hear about other recurring webinars on this topic. So over the last few weeks, as this epidemic has affected U.S. educators, EdSurge and ISTE have been trying to put together collections of resources. We started with this guide called Navigating Uncertain Times, How Schools Can Cope with COVID. And it's collecting stories, contributions from both educators as well as from our journalists, and some really helpful resources. Please take a look. You can find it online at readiness.edsurge.com. In addition, one more helpful thought is that ISTE and EdSurge have also been convening a huge number of resources as part of a site that we call Learning Keeps Going. There are more than 700 free tools there, along with information about what you can use and why you can use it and who can use it, all during this crisis. And we also have an educator help desk, so you can find all of those resources at learningkeepsgoing.org. Okay, now for what you really came for. I'd like to start by introducing our panelists. I'm really pleased. They have gotten up very, very early in the morning to be with us. We really appreciate it. It's about 7 in the morning Beijing time. So first up, we have Michael Epstein. He is a principal at Nova Academy in Beijing. He has a degree from the University of Pennsylvania, has been involved with online teaching since 2013, and he develops and delivers curriculum for English language learning, early childhood education, a whole host of different programs. Nova Academy has been going since 2016, and it's an online experimental school that's offering rigorous English as a foreign language programs in small intensive classes, one-on-one tutoring, and large interest-based classes and activities as well. And Nova Academy is using Klassen to support a lot of these different instructional models. And he also has been and is VP of Education at Klassen. Next, we have Dr. Wenge, who's an associate professor in the Department of Education Technology at the Graduate School of Education in Peking University. In addition to her role as a professor of education technology, Wenge is the founding chair of the Digital Reading Lab at the Graduate School of Education at Peking U, and has been a visiting scholar at the State University of New York and the Chinese University of Hong Kong, Free University of Berlin. Her first online experience dates back. She's been doing this since 2004. Starting at her work with SUNY, and has coordinated a couple of massive programs for training teachers, and I think has educated something like 400,000 teachers through online programs. So we're very pleased to have you here with us today. And third, we have Erin Lennon, who is co-principal of the youve International Education School, which is a bilingual school in Guangzhou. Erin's career in education spans over 25 years in state and independent schools in Kent in the UK and now in China. He has a graduate degree in geography from the University of Nottingham and subsequent postgraduate qualifications in teaching and educational leadership and an MBA from the University College London. So we have an amazing panel. So China ordered all schools be shut down in late January as coronavirus infections began to spread. And that's a decision that has affected more than 200 million users. And even though online learning wasn't mandatory, in the wake of all of these things, the Chinese government strongly encouraged it. And that means that as of early April, there are close to 1.5 billion students around the world affected by school closures. And so we wanted to take some time to really talk about what these early adopters have been discovering and learning and experiencing. So Erin, let's start with you. Your school moved from a physical campus into an online campus in about a week, and that's pretty remarkable. Let's talk a little bit about what that's meant for your staff. What are some of the traits that you've seen in your staff that's actually helped to make this work?
I think the context of what we did might kind of illustrate the flexibility, adaptability, innovative teaching, great teamwork that my staff have shown and delivered and exhibited over the past 3 months, really. To put it into context, we last saw our students on Friday the 17th of January. We then broke for our 2-week Spring Festival or Chinese New Year holiday. We got notification from the authorities that schools may shut on the 22nd of January. So that was getting ready for schools to shut. And it was a couple of days later that schools were told to shut right across China. We're in Guangdong province in the south of China, not too far from Hong Kong. Guangdong province have been very pro e-learning, and it was the directive of the local province that schools were encouraged to set up e-learning. We'd already decided fairly quickly that we needed a good online platform to work with, and we looked at a variety of platforms and chose ClassIn. Some of the complications that we had at the time were that during Chinese New Year holiday, the Spring Festival, it's tradition for local staff, local Chinese staff, to travel back to their hometowns to be with their family. So we had local staff spread all over China, including in Hubei province and some in Wuhan itself, which is the center of the outbreak. We also had our foreign staff, including myself. I'm from the UK. I was in London at the time. I had colleagues all over the world in every different time zone. What we had to do is to work in teams, local staff and foreign staff in different time zones, to work together to actually plan the execution and delivery and transition of offline learning to the online learning world. And that was a major, major undertaking. We managed to do that in a week, and we opened our online school on Monday, the 3rd of February. Behind all of that is incredible work from our non-academic staff, the administrators, who created timetables, registered students, putting class lists into our online learning world, developed user programs and manuals, and in that time we trained our staff online. The first couple of days were a bit of trial and error and using the online platform. And what really helped was some staff became super users very, very quickly. And we used WeChat, which is a bit like WhatsApp around the world, and we used that in terms of developing different groups so we could actually share ideas amongst us as educators. Staff had to show a lot of adaptability and innovation, because obviously if they're in Los Angeles or London or Beijing, they're not in Guangzhou, they don't have access to their resources, they don't have their textbooks, their teaching materials. So staff really had to adapt. Even when staff did come back to Guangzhou, they weren't allowed onto the campus. The campus is still shut for staff. Okay, so they had to show extreme adaptability and really a lot of hard work to transform learning resources into an online world. So I'm really, really grateful for my staff for their hard work and adaptability. The reason why we didn't choose video learning platforms in terms of recording video lessons and then using those time and time again with classes is the issue of the isolation of students. This was really, really important because, a serious pandemic like this, we expected that the schools were going to be shut for a long time, and we've now finished 11 weeks of e-learning. We're several weeks ahead of USA, several weeks of Western Europe in terms of our experience. So we determined fairly early on that social isolation of students and parents and teachers, in lockdown in different parts of the world, in different parts of China, was an important consideration. So using mediums, platforms like this, where the teacher could teach live, could see the students could see each other, they could see the teacher, also the parents. This is a great window on learning of the children. The parents could actually see in on the classes as well. And indeed, many parents joined in on our classes. So we found that interactivity of a real-time teaching where we could see all the students and we could use a variety of teaching tools in a platform like Classin. It really did help with the psychological issues around self-isolation for significant periods of time. So that's in a nutshell where we were, but there's an awful lot of, I'm grateful to my staff.
We're going to come back and unpack a number of those points because you've made some terrific ones, the social isolation as a key one. And you are still in online learning mode right now, right? You guys have not reopened campus at this stage.
No, we've not reopened yet. Some provinces in China have reopened for some year levels. The return to schools will be phased or staggered. Some year levels like grade 9, which is age 14, 15, are going back, and some of our senior students who are preparing for the Gaokao university entrance examination are going back. But that's not the same with every province. In Guangdong province, which is a big, big province of about 130 million people, all campuses are still closed.
Got it. We're going to come back to a number of the issues that you raised because I think there's a ton of great issues there, which include not just what the differences are between what you had taught previously and where you're going, but even where you started to some degree. But let's come back to those. Wendy, I'd like to move to you for a moment. You had a little longer to prepare your, particularly your doctoral students, your EDD students, for a move to online. And picking up on some of the points that Erin's made, what are some concrete tips that you would really like to share with educators who are moving their existing courses online? Now, you're obviously dealing with an older class of students, more university and postdoctoral, your doctoral students. But my guess is some of the points are similar. What are you learning?
Okay. For the Peking University, this semester is beginning at February 17th. But our school, we have a program is EDD. Their course is begin from the February 3rd. It became the first program impacted by the coronavirus. And it also became the pilot experiment for Peking University to move online. To help the teachers successfully move their course online, I write a guideline help them to move course online. My suggestion is include 3 steps. And the first step, the teacher, you need to analyze what type of your course. You know, for the course is basically on the classroom. You know, you use the reading and speaking and speeching and discussions, such kind of course. Congratulations, you can move your course online totally. Especially use synchronous online model like this class in. And if you are your course is kind of like the seminar, you need a heavy reading offline. My suggestions, you can use asynchronous online model. But if your course is need based on the label, for example, the chemistry experiment or the medical anatomy, such course, you need to wait to back to your campus. And the second is, I suggest the teacher, you need to know the advantage and the limitage of the asynchronous online model and the synchronous online model. Actually, the first online course in history is an asynchronous online course. The synchronous online course is widely used in the recent years. It's because the network bandwidth was greatly improved. The two, and for the native teachers, I suggest you start with the synchronous model because it's very similar to the classroom and easy to help you to move in. Just like a class in, we move the EDD, use this class in, and finally, laterly, the PTU move to class in 2. And the third is record your content and redesign the learning activity. You know, because in the online scenario, especially the synchronous like this, the student need to concentrate to the screen, and it's a very short distance. They were easy to feel tired. So we need to cut the content and arrange many, the interaction activity between the teacher student and the student to student. So great. That is my suggestion, the first step.
One quick question for you while we have you here. The Chinese government, I think, was suggesting that for small students, 20 minutes online is the right amount of time and then a break. And then for older students, I think 45 minutes and then a break. Can you say anything from the research that you have done about the choice of that amount of time? Is that what research has been showing is most effective, or any background that you have about how to break up that time would be helpful?
I think I have seen the many case study, and they share with us the current break should be between the 15 minutes to 30 minutes is better. Mostly it's during these times. And especially even for the graduate student, you need a break. When you lecture 20 minutes or 30 minutes, then you have a break to question something or discussion a topic, such things. And also we have a professor. He's very willing to guide the student online to do some, Tai Chi examination, have a break.
Excellent. Okay, great. Well, that's really helpful. So between 15 to 30 minutes is sort of, sounds like what the research is saying. Terrific. Michael, thinking beyond the logistics, what are some of the greatest opportunities that this online experience is really offering us right now?
I mean, there are a number of opportunities, but 5 big ones that we've noticed are the chance for teachers to model 21st century learning, because they're in a new environment. As they're running their classes and dealing with this new environment, students are actually seeing them employ critical thinking, employ creativity in how classes are delivered. Also, communication, collaboration, obviously in an online platform as they work together, and also the habits of mind, because we're all in a new place. And so unlike the offline classroom where students kind of expect teachers to kind of know and have a handle on everything that's going on, here we see authentic opportunities for modeling perseverance, grit, as well as interconnected thinking as classes solve and deal with problems together. Furthermore, it's in line with a lot of national frameworks for education that are stressing college and especially career readiness. Here we are, we're having a webinar online right now. Students in an online classroom are functioning, are working in similar environments, just like at our jobs, we're communicating with people in different places, having to use a variety of ways of communication, camera, chats, and so on. Here that is in the classroom, and it really, I think, goes along with what educators like Dewey really stress. It's important in education, the practical dimension of it. And then design thinking. As we, as teachers, educators are trying new things, as students are trying new things, what's, getting something out there, what's working, what isn't working? How do I go back and iterate to improve the next performance of it? And then something that has, I know, been a hot topic in a lot of countries, online communities, that with online classrooms, we're actually able to model pro-social behavior in an online environment and creating these intentional communities so that students have real life examples of how to get along online. And what I'm really hoping is that this translates into a healthier online experience for our children as they're working with things like social media. And finally, Aaron touched on this. Parents get to see what their kids are learning. That I'm sure as parents and when we were students, mom and dad would ask, what did you do at school today? Nothing. Now parents actually get to see what's going on, which I think really helps affirm their faith and confidence in teachers in general, whether it's online or offline, and in this new online experience.
Yeah. And
as Aaron said, parents actually getting involved with the learning experience, really strengthening that homeschool connection. Just yesterday, I was reviewing videos of students doing a short demonstration with drawing like spiders with whiteboard markers on tinfoil and making them float. And a lot of them, mom and dad were there, either doing it with them, or you could hear them off in the background, looking in on what's going on. And I think these are really 5 huge takeaways we've had from moving online.
Really appreciate those. Let's dive into the parents for a moment, because I used to have a joke with one of our elementary school teachers. I said the only thing worse than an uninvolved parent is a very involved parent. Every educator laughs when I say that. Erin, have you had any problem managing the parents? Do they jump in? Do they dive in? Do they want to take control of the class? Are you, is there parent management that has to go on too?
Yeah, there's definitely parent management, but not in the way of them, wanting to influence what the teachers are teaching. I think the initial parent involvement, we surveyed all of our parents after 10 days of e-learning. So, we contacted them all, had a survey, and we adjusted our timetable as a result, made some of the lessons for the primary age children shorter and put in longer breaks, and produced a better mix of online and offline learning with the 20 minutes maximum or 10 minutes online, a period of time offline, come back for 10 minutes. And we're classing, you can set timers and things like that so the kids know when to come back. So we surveyed our parents about, what was working, what wasn't working for them. They were concerned about eye fatigue, being in front of a screen for long, long periods of time. Okay, it's tiring. And for smaller children in particular, it's very, very tiring. So we adjusted our program after about 2 weeks in response to constructive comments from parents. And we phone our parents up once a week. Every single parent, our school office is phoning them all up, keeping them keeping in touch, because we were in, like the US is, like Western Europe is, a severe lockdown for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
The parents are at home with the kids and they feel isolated. So having that contact with the school was really, really important. And obviously communicate with parents to get involved as well. And some of the parents wanted us to set homework in a slightly different way, which was great. One of the comments came back, can you set homework which is housework? So the children can mop the floor, they can clean the kitchen, they can do the dishes as part of, say, homework for physical education. Or together we can do some yoga moves. And we had, obviously, our PE lessons have been things like Pilates and yoga and stretches and things like this. And we've had great videos parents have sent back of the parents, moms and dads, joining in with the kids. Then the parents love this and send the videos back to us of them all joining in as a family. So the interaction, Michael's been saying, has been brilliant. So many examples of STEM projects. We set projects in whatever, because people couldn't leave their apartments for periods of time. Okay,
Right.
We were all really, really locked down. So kids were having to use resources around the home as part of their STEM projects, and the creativity was absolutely wonderful.
That's really interesting. Let me just go back, and you said a couple of really fascinating things. So number one, obviously communication, hugely important that you're communicating, whether it's through a survey, obviously through phone calls is ideal, although certainly I know in public schools in the United States that might be a little bit more complicated. But did you set any kinds of, standards of practice, or in other words, expectations for either the students or the parents when you first started doing these online classes about, when do you jump in? When do you not jump in? When do you interrupt? Was there any need to set those kinds of almost classroom management principles at all, or not?
Yeah, really? we did that. We did that straight off, to be honest. We had a kind of list of class-in rules, in the online world that kind of sort of mirrored the normal classroom expectations in normal school. Yeah. Okay, so in terms of kids turning up on time, not wearing pajamas when they're coming to homeroom registration first thing in the morning, things like that. But to be honest, the parents have not been intrusive in any way in terms of the lessons or the learning. They've trusted us because we set the bar very high to begin with, delivered a full curriculum but adapted curriculum, and listened to our parents and responded to the constructive feedback that we were getting. So I think that all helped.
Super. Did you and I'm getting a couple of questions from folks online, so we'll just finish this thread for a moment. Did you, you said you literally picked up the telephone and called parents. Were any of those challenging? I mean, you had everybody's phone number. Were there any, your classes are relatively small, right? So
we've got typically about 20 to 24 students per class. Okay. Our school size is about 500, so obviously significantly smaller than a lot of the schools that the people watching this are managing. Right. But we use every single member of non-academic staff from our marketing team, our school office, a load of other staff. We're on the phone. And if there are any issues that are picked up, then a senior leader would phone or contact.
So that's a really good point, which is it doesn't have to be just on the individual teacher. You can use your whole school community to do that sort of outreach and then refer any kinds of questions. That's great. Michael, I'd love to get you jumping in too. Let's talk about working parents for a moment. There are lots of parents in the US who are trying to struggle to both do their full-time job and, especially if they're small kids, kind of helping or managing the small kids. And when you have kids coming off and on, 10 minutes on, 10 minutes off, 10 minutes on, 10 minutes off, is that a challenge? Is that hard? Does that require a full-time parent to be involved? Or, how do you get the kids to do the right thing?
I think, especially with the younger kids, one thing we've always recommended that might help with working parents is establishing a school space for them, if possible, so that they get that like there's the threshold experience, especially with preschoolers, kindergarten kids, where they get to school and now they're in the school mindset, trying to replicate that, giving them a quiet space, a space that's free of distractions to sort of to minimize things may be going awry. And then spending time at the beginning, like Aaron mentioned, setting online expectations and really keeping the cognitive and affective load low so that kids are working with material that's somewhat familiar with them to build confidence, and really putting an emphasis on the routines so that when they're coming offline, they're doing something that they are confident in doing, that they feel like they're going to have success with. Often children of really all ages act out, don't do assignments, don't do homework, not because they're lazy or they're bad. Those things are absolutely not true. It's because they don't know what's expected of them, and they're out of a safe environment, and it's a way of them trying to get attention. What am I supposed to do here? So spending first couple days, week as needed, maybe even longer, acclimating them to that online space so that parents are able to work at home. And yes, there will be some flexibility, required. As Aaron mentioned, his school, they changed their schedule up a bit to accommodate parent suggestions. And that might be something that schools will have to deal with working parents as well. At least the nice thing about working at home, though, is that you have a little more flexibility in managing your own time. So there are advantages as well. Yeah, you think you do. It's true. But you do have opportunities to be with your children because you're not having to, go travel, pick them up. They're right there.
Yeah.
And you're not having to commute. So you're able to get the things done you need to do as a parent.
Yeah.
While also supporting your child in their new education experience.
Right. That makes sense. Wendy, I'd like to go back to you. You talked about thinking about the material that is being presented from the professor's point of view, thinking about that material and thinking about when is it appropriate to be asynchronous, when is it appropriate to be synchronous. Any additional observations that you have about how much the teaching practices must change when we go all digital the way that we have? Any other thoughts on that?
I think that I'm sorry, please give me some tips again.
Sure. Maybe if as you think about supporting synchronous and asynchronous learning, those two different modes, yeah. Just talk a little bit more about what you've learned about what we have to really do differently. Yeah.
Okay. I think we need build a strong technology support system to help the teacher to move their course online. In China, in the university level, we have each course, we will give them a teacher assistant. Usually it's a student. The student can help the teacher to operate just as we have some backstage technology support. They can help the teacher to operate some complicated manuals. And for the K-12 level in China, in the public school, usually they haven't enough resource to support them, so they have many difficulties. So my advice to their school to help teacher move to the online is to give them enough support and build a very strong support system. That is very important.
Yes. In fact, Aaron, you had made reference to the fact that when your teachers started going online, that it became clear some were super expert very quickly. And then you talked about using WeChat, which is an online chatting group, as you said, like a Slack channel or messaging system. Talk a little bit more about what you observed, how important it was for the teachers to have the kind of support, even from each other, that Wendy is describing. And then what's happened over time? How has that changed the longer you've been at this?
Okay, we opened these channels immediately. Obviously, we offered online training to everybody. And lots of people eventually found their way back to Guangzhou fairly quickly, those who are overseas and those who are in China but outside Hubei province. Well, we opened up these channels on WeChat, the social media, the biggest social media platform in China. And basically, people are posing questions. I don't know how to do this. How do I award a trophy? Or I want to give a merit to somebody who's done some good work, or I'm not sure how to set the timer. I want the kids to come back in 15 minutes. How do I set the timer? It's practical. It was trial and error the first couple of days. For me as well, because I teach as well as being co-principal, I do teach a little bit as well. So I was finding this, how do I do that? And the easiest thing, rather than going to the manual, is actually talking to somebody who's really good at this. And there's always people in your staff who become expert using IT very, very quickly. It's a bit like the kids. The kids today seem, give them a remote, give a 2-year-old a remote control for a TV, and they'll work out how to use it in seconds.
Did you include any of the students on the help channels?
No, actually, when I was teaching, I was thinking, okay, how do I do this? And then one of my students, Mr. Aaron, I think you need to do this. It's brilliant. Oh, yeah, I need to press this button. Okay. Yeah, so the kids worked out how to use it fairly quickly as well, because they were registered to, obviously users, not quite the super user you would be as a teacher. So we learned that during that first 2 weeks, we learned a lot from each other. And subsequently, to be honest, those kind of help channels, if you want to call them that, have really dried up. In terms of people asking for help, what people are now posting are examples of the students' work, whether it's screenshots or video clips, film clips of the students' work that the students are sending in. So it's transformed from being kind of let's help each other kind of group to this is my class are doing, and everybody's really being buzzy about the excitement that this is actually created. Our marketing department loved this because it's produced hours and hours and hours of really great content to showcase not only the staff's hard work, but the kids' ingenuity. It's been brilliant.
Yeah. What about any help channels for either staff or even parents who are struggling a little bit too? In the United States, we're asking a lot of questions about how do we emotionally support people through, you mentioned originally, isolation, and through the fact that even though in theory it should be easy to work from home, it's not always true. It's not always what it's cracked up to be. I'd love to hear from any of you about how you're trying to emotionally support staff, and then whether there's any opportunity to extend that to students or even to families.
I think the key to it is communication. It's really, really important as school leaders that you're in regular communication with your staff. Some staff have felt very, very vulnerable being in this situation, particularly if they're on their own, they're in China, either local staff or foreign staff who've got no family, they're on their own, they're locked up. It was difficult to get supplies and provisions the first few days, a week or so. And to be honest, about communicating either online, or I'm quite lucky where I am, we can actually leave our apartment and go for walks around our compound, but not leave our residential compound, and actually have those face-to-face chats with people. We had some people coming back from overseas who were then told they had to be in 14 days quarantine in complete lockdown in their apartments. And it's leaving a chocolate bar in a bag outside their door so they can pick things up. It's little things like that which matter, and it's listening to people and being in regular contact. Because we are all in this together. This is just a new situation for all of this, and we're all kind of helping each other out. Even the smallest thing makes a big difference to people.
Yeah. Michael or Wendy? Yeah. How about Wendy and then Michael?
Okay.
The course, the professor to organize the student to exchange the feeling. Lockdown in the home, and let them speak out with their stress or some pressures in this special situation. And I also know a case is EDD student. They have the online party to make the social activity to help them to solution the emotion program.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And Michael?
as an online school, this is something that we were dealing with even before the coronavirus happened, because frequently with online communities, in a more general sense, there's always this worry about isolation, alienation, that feeling that isn't maybe there in an obvious way being all together in a classroom. So we amped up what we're doing a little bit since the virus hit, and we have now staff also spread out all over the world. But things like weekly video check-ins, whether it's with our staff, we have a school group, and once a week I'll record a video just talking about how things are going here, what I've been feeling, other staff doing the same. And then with our students, because we have chat groups as well, whether on the classroom platform and also through WeChat, again, video sharing, so that we're able to, one, as an English teaching program, it's an opportunity to use English in a very real world way. Like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm feeling. This is how things are changing. Or, hey, have you met my cats? Have you met my family? And getting students to share little bits of their lives as well, so that that social dimension of school is there, and they feel included in a larger community. Because one thing we notice that can happen is classrooms can silo, that there's communication in the classroom, but because you're not all there on a campus, what's going on in other classes? What are my peers doing? And sharing across the entire school environment through larger chat groups. This is what's, our grade 2 students have just completed this project. Let's take a look at, what they've done. They've maybe done like a short play, a role play, or created a poster. So sharing successes and challenges across our entire school.
Good. Let's go back to curriculum for one moment. The social element is obviously by far hugely important. But let's go back to curriculum. And I think, Michael, you'd said something interesting I'd love to hear from Wendy and Aaron as well, which is you talked about you want to make sure that people have tasks or projects that they can feel they can be successful. One of the questions we've sometimes heard from people is, gosh, are we going to make it too easy online? In order to make them feel successful, we want to make it a little easy. So my question to you is, number one is, how much curriculum of the curriculum you thought you were going through this year, how much are you actually going to go through? And does that sense of you've got to present stuff where they can be successful, does that start to change, or is that the way it is 10 weeks in as much as 2 weeks in? Okay, somebody jump in. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought Michael was going on that one first.
Okay, I guess because we haven't been online, we haven't faced that transition in the same way. But yeah. One thing that we really stress is you're not going to be able to do the same things online in the same way, maybe. But what you need to keep in mind at all times is working from your objectives, whether they're year-long standards you're trying to attain, or they're the day-to-day lesson objectives in the classroom. That when you think from objectives first, and I think this is really true in an online space, how you're going to use that space becomes a lot more intuitive. We need to achieve this today. And tools, strategies start to suggest themselves a lot more, rather than thinking, oh, I've got all these tools, how do I use them? It's, where am I trying to get to? How can the resources available to me get me there? Yeah. So that, yeah, you will start slow. Yeah. Because you want to acclimate students, but you start slow to go fast later. Yeah.
Aaron, so let's put it quite bluntly, do you think you're going to get through the same amount of curriculum this year now as you had planned to before?
I think in a lot of subjects, yes. I think we'll get 100% coverage of our objectives and our standards. In some subjects, no.
And so what's the difference? Why some yes, why some no?
I think it's those subjects where, for instance, learning Chinese, that you need, I would say that kind of face-to-face assessment, and then the realization when you're actually in the classroom, when you've got the kids around you as a teacher, as you're wandering around, you can assess all the time. So, and there's quite, in Chinese national curriculum, there's a lot of coverage in Chinese language learning. So I think we'll probably only cover about 75% of where we need to be in Chinese, and we'll have to find some time, additional education time during the summer recess for a summer school to catch up on some subjects in order that we actually achieve our goals for the year. As Michael said, you start off a bit slow as people get used to the system, but you do pick up the pace very quickly. And it's not about making it easier in terms of curriculum, but it's making it accessible, okay? And there's a change in terms, some things that you do in the classroom, you adapt to change in the online world. I wouldn't say it's any easier. And in fact, some parents have asked us to set less homework and to realize, wow, this is really high level. This is really difficult, but you set the bar high, because you want the students to achieve the objectives that you started at the beginning of the year. Just because the campus is shut, school is still open. Learning is still happening. Mm-hmm. And as educators, we want, with the other pressures and social isolation and the psychological impacts to put into the mix as well, we want to try and achieve meeting our goals as a school for the year so that students can see progress. As soon as we go back to campus, which we expect to be probably after national holiday, which is beginning of May, we expect to go back. One of the first things that we'll be doing will be actually measuring progress. There'll be some assessments to actually measure this, e-learning progress. How much have our students made progress over this time? Yeah. We've been doing various assessment points throughout the 10 or 11 weeks that we've been doing this.
Yes.
But I think we'll probably get more accurate data when we're back at school.
Are these going to be different assessments than you would have normally administered at that point in time?
Yeah.
Interesting. Wendy, let me. I'm going to jump in because we're going to start running out of time. There are a few more questions to get to. Have any of you dealt, and maybe Wendy, you could speak about this nationally, about how to work with students who may not have access to technology at home? Have you encountered students who can't get to a strong enough internet connection, or maybe don't have the technology at home to make full use of platforms? Have any of you seen this?
That's too difficult in China. Yes, it's true. Some students, they cannot access to the internet. In China, some province to provide the students use a TV channel to give them the course. And that's maybe lost some quality maybe, but the TV and radio sometimes is a support for the student. Then that is depend on different technology. So it sometimes work, for English or for language learning, and the radio and TV is still an option for us. Yeah.
Is there a concern in China about whether some students get left behind because they may not have this access then?
Yeah, I think it's true. It's maybe. And not all the problems in this pandemic, during this pandemic period, can move all the things to online. Yeah, your question is, I think it's a problem.
Yeah.
Still in China.
Yeah.
Not all schools have had the resources to be able to make the shift that perhaps my school has. It's expected that all schools in China, whether they're public schools or they're fee-paying schools, will be asked to offer what's called make-up time or additional time, either at weekends or extending into the summer holiday for students to catch up. And the national entrance exam to university, the Gaokao, has been delayed by a month. So we expect that our semester 2 for us in China will be extended.
And sorry, Michael, go ahead, please.
I was going to say, as we're seeing these things, what we're really seeing is just it's on a larger scale, but communities worldwide on a much smaller scale have dealt with these things historically. I grew up in New England. There were several years of my schooling where there were so many snow days. And we were coming in on the weekends to make up classes because the school year had to, like Massachusetts at the time, I think state law, the school year had to end by a certain day. So we're just seeing this on a much larger scale in terms of having to make up time, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what's helped us is having real-time learning and curriculum coverage, as we've done. I think those schools, and I think a lot of public schools have used video lessons where teachers have got to record lessons, or using state-produced materials, which are video lessons, which then kids watch at home. Obviously, there's no interaction with the teachers in mediums like that. Other schools have just posted things on the school website, tasks or project-based tasks, project-based learning tasks for periods of time. That doesn't work, quite frankly. You know, the kids are not going to make progress. The teachers lose contact with the kids very, very quickly. So my advice to anybody out there who's watching this, if you can offer real-time learning, face-to-face, it's very, very effective. And you'll find that the curriculum coverage, you'll get through what you need to get through, and have that day-to-day contact with the students is vital in a period where you will be locked down for several months, not just weeks.
If anything, this crisis is probably doing more to underscore how important those relationships between teachers and students, and even between students and each other are, right? That it's not just about opening brains and pouring information in, it's about those relationships and how we're trying to build those.
Yeah, don't forget the pastoral work of the school. Schools are not just about academics. The pastoral side of the school is equally important.
Right. When you think about next school year, when you think about September of next year, how do you think your teams are going to prepare differently than they did for last September? Wendy, you're smiling.
We're all smiling.
In my mind, I think that maybe we have more option to run our course, just like this webinar. And we have we located in different place, but we can have this webinar. So I think in our school we have discussion about this, you know, because it's a education school, and we think about maybe we will have more, you know, cooperation between the China and the United States or the UK. Such things, such a new program will be run online, and maybe we can cooperate the school and the entrepreneur to design some new course. So I think this is a very good opportunity for all the teachers to be training online, and so many teacher and students, they have experience online learning. That is very important things for the future.
Yeah. And one other question, which is, when you think about the feedback that you've been getting from students, what have you guys been surveying your students and getting feedback from them? What's been some of the comments you've heard back from the students?
We have a survey for the EDD student, and the finding include, you know, the student attend more course online. Before this online course, when we teach them on campus, you know, the EDD students, not all of them is in Beijing, mostly is outer Beijing. So if they want to attend, you know, even they have get the credit of this course, but when they prepare their dissertation, you want to beg to attend the course to, you know, review some point. They cannot come and spend many time, many money to come here. But when we move it online, the students attend more course. They told us that is amazing. Yeah, and we also ask them whether you think we can move all the program online. and I think more than 50% students, they like still online to learn this course.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think this is amazing.
Oh, that's very interesting. Aaron, Michael, do you what are your students saying, and do they want to stay? Well, Michael, you've sort of already been online, so that maybe it's a cheat to ask you that question. But Aaron, do you think your students want to come back, or are they happy to be online?
They want to come back to campus.
Yeah. I think
definitely. They miss their teachers. The little comments, particularly from the primary age, the elementary age,
Yes.
it's so sweet and so cute. I miss my teacher. I want to come back. Oh, it's really cute. We get these little video messages.
That's sweet. Any other feedback that they've given about this experience that's particularly instructive for the future?
I think they've appreciated the creativity of the teachers under difficult circumstances. And to be honest, teachers have had to be more creative and more adaptable because the novelty of e-learning, and for us it was a novelty, obviously Michael's very experienced with this, but for us it was a new world. And for our teachers it was a new world, and for our students it was a new world. So for the first 2 weeks, hey, this is all new, wow. Then after week 3, you think, it's, we're going to be like this for a long time. So our teachers really had to step up and really use every ounce of their creativity to keep the motivation levels high.
Wow.
Yeah, we've had students moan about the lessons, saying, oh, it's too much homework or too much online, or it's too intense. You get all of those things, but you would get those anyway during normal school day.
Yeah. So in the last couple of minutes we have, if you could each offer, again, one tip for other schools that are, other schools in other countries are still probably a month or a month and a half behind you. So as you think about the journey you have been on these past 10 weeks, one tip that you could offer our other educators. Michael, shall we start with you? And
Sure. One tip. Wow. I guess, and we've kind of mentioned this, all of us, throughout this webinar, but it's worth stressing. Take the journey together. Learning is a fundamentally social experience. It's not, as I believe Aaron and you, Betsy, said, it's not about opening up their heads and pouring knowledge in exclusively. Learning happens together, so keep connected with your students. Offer opportunities for interaction, especially more informal interaction. Keep the parents involved. Be communicating so that everyone feels part of a school community as they would in an offline setting.
Thank you. Wendy?
Okay. My tips is start from the synchronous online platform. That is very similar to the classroom. If you are ICT condition is good.
Fantastic. Aaron?
I echo the points that have been made, and one kind of observation, I suppose, about what we've learned is the staff have learned an awful lot about themselves, and they've learned a lot of how to work more effectively in teams. So when you ask the question, what's going to be different, next semester when we go back the new academic year, I think if anything, the teams are going to be much stronger, because we actually know, all of us now know our strengths, because I can watch every single lesson that's going on in my school, okay? So I can pop in and out on using ClassID. So I've seen everybody teach, which has been a really great opportunity for me as a principal that, I wouldn't normally get in my routine kind of week, not to see everybody teach. And the parents have seen that as well. So they know the character and the creativity and the caliber of our teachers. So one lesson learned is teamwork. And if anything, this whole experience has strengthened our teams for next academic year.
That is a fantastic note to end on. So I would like to first give my huge thanks and appreciation to all three of you, Aaron Lennon from YouWow International, Dr. Wenge from Peking University, and of course, Michael Epstein from Nova Academy in Beijing. Thank you all so much for sharing your thoughts and your learnings from us. Thank you as well to Klassen for sharing this platform. It's been very interesting. It's the first time the EdSurge team has used this platform as well. And it's been a great experience. And if anyone wants more information on Klassen, you can certainly reach them at klassen.com. And there's lots of details there. Again, my name is Betsy Corcoran. I'm co-founder of EdSurge. We provide all kinds of resources and news, and we are trying to keep our community together. So please feel free to reach out to me. You can reach out to me at Betsy@EdSurge or feedback@edsurge.com. And you're also welcome, of course, to sign up for our free newsletters and find out all about the other resources we have. Again, thank you so much to our panelists, to Klassen. Thank you very much for participating online, and have a great day or night or wherever you are. Thank you so much. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.